Thank you for looking at my channel. I'm going to make a series of videos on using PlaneMaker 12. And if you have not installed Xplane already, then you should go to the Xplane website and get my mouse back over here. And it is available as a demo. I suggest you buy it. It's a great program. But if you want to try it out first, you can. And PlaneMaker, which we're using, I believe the full version of PlaneMaker comes with the demo. And if you make a plane, you can try it out in Xplane 12, and you can fly it, I believe, for 15 minutes with the demo version. So it's, but you can start making a plane even if you have not bought the full version of Xplane 12. So I apologize. First of all, I am making these videos on an airport, so you're likely to hear planes, helicopters, turboprops, jets in the background. And so hopefully that'll just be background music, and you'll be able to hear the audio without any problem. Once you install Xplane 12, you will have in the Xplane 12 folder a group of additional folders and programs that look like this. Here's the Xplane application. That's what you can use to actually fly your airplane. You've got the installer and then PlaneMaker, and that's what we're going to focus on. And I'll open that in just a minute. And then you've also got Airfoil Maker. I don't think I'll do anything with Airfoil Maker because Laminar Research has some great videos on how to use Airfoil Maker. One of the things I will do during these videos is I will point out some bugs in PlaneMaker and or Xplane. I'm doing that not because I'm criticizing Laminar Research or Xplane 12 at all. It's still being improved. A lot of the bugs, well, all of the bugs I'll point out I've reported, and a number of which they've recognized and are aware of and are working on fixing. So I'm making these videos in the first quarter of 2023. If you're looking at these videos 6 months or a year from now, it is likely that some of the problems I'll have to work around will be fixed. So just be aware that there may be some improvements. There will be some improvements, and some of the things I'll show you how to work around, you no longer will need to work around. The plane we're going to make is an MU2-40. I am on the Northern Jet Sales website. And the reason I'm on that website, this is their homepage. I will avoid using anything that's copyrighted. I've looked all over this website. I cannot find a copyright notice, so I assume they don't mind us at least looking at it. They have, fortunately for us, a number of, let's get to it, number of MU2s for sale. And trying to remember which one of these, maybe this one. No, it could be the bottom one. Yeah, I think it is the bottom one. So the MU2 we're going to make is this one. It's the short-bodied MU2. It has the same wings and engine on it as the long-bodied MU2. We're going to make the Solitaire, which is the last version, the -40. You can tell the difference between the short body and the long body. The short body has fewer windows. The body obviously is shorter. the nose gear retracts backwards and the main gear retract backwards into the body. So those are the easiest ways to tell. If you look at this as a long body MU2, and you can see not only the nose gear retracts forward, the main gear retract into what I call pods. I'm not sure what they call them, but they retract into those pods, and you have more windows. It's in a longer body. The other big difference, and the reason I want to make the 40 instead of the 60, is the 40 is about, I think, close to 30 to 35 knots faster. It'll climb higher, climb faster, fly further. So it's just a more fun airplane to fly. So that's why we're going to do that one, and we'll come back to these pictures periodically because we'll come back to the pictures periodically just to compare and make sure what we're doing matches with the pictures. So once you want to start an airplane, you see at the top there's a folder called Aircraft. If you open that, what you'll probably see if you just installed X-Plane is just this Laminar Research folder. And in that folder are a number of other folders, and that's all the airplanes that come with X-Plane 12. You can modify these planes if you want to. Just if you're going to modify it, create a copy of the entire folder and then modify the plane so you don't affect the original, because you can make changes which will make them unflyable, and then you won't have the original either. So what I do is I create a second folder called Mine. This is another plane that was available in the public domain. I create a folder called Mine, and if I'm going to modify a plane, or also if I buy a plane, I typically will, if possible, put it in Mine. In X-Plane 11, I created a folder called Owned and put all the planes that I purchased, and then the planes that I modified or built myself in Mine. And so what we're going to do, because we're going to create a new plane, is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go here and we're going to add a folder, and we're just going to call it Test. That's good enough. We'll just call it Test. And in that folder, we're going to create another folder called MU2-40. And that's where we'll put all our airplanes. So it'll be in its own folder. And the other thing, we'll assume that if I'm starting from scratch, that I would create this folder inside the MU2, which I've already done. And that folder is called Research. And so within that folder, I have all of the research that I've done on the MU2. And I'll put pictures. If I can find POHs, that's great. Any kind of technical data, articles, if I can find them. Any background that's available on the plane that I might use during the build. And the other thing I do is make sure I get the right. There we go. I'll create an Excel spreadsheet. And here's my Excel spreadsheet on the MU2. Let's see if I can make that larger. I certainly can. We'll go to like 150. That'll help, I'm sure, on the video, particularly anybody who has a lower resolution. So I jot down any information I can find that is relevant to this, to the MU2 build, anything I think I might use. And I use the Microsoft standards for formatting. So if I'm just copying data, it's a direct input into the spreadsheet, I use the orange. So all of this is in orange because I just copied it directly out of some document or another. This is in yellow as opposed to orange. It's just a note. The reason it's not orange is because it's out of memory. I think that's right. I'm pretty sure that's right. I'm going to use it, but I don't have a source for it. If you asked me to point to it today, I couldn't. But we're going to use it because I think it's right. This number, the empty weight, the 6,170, I don't think is correct. That's why I've labeled it as bad, even though I have a source for it. I just don't believe it. The only way that's a valid number is if it is the plane as it comes off the assembly line with no interior, no seats, no oil, no unusable fuel, just a brand new plane ready to be finished with the instruments but nothing else. So we're not going to use that number. I'll use a higher number because it just doesn't make sense to me. The next thing I have is calculations. So anything that is a calculation, again, I use the formatting that identifies it as a calculation. I do that because a lot of these calculated numbers I'm going to use, but if for any reason the number looks bad, I want to know it's a calculation so I can go back and confirm that, for example, this first number is inches, and X-Plane does not accept it in inches. X-Plane, the input for X-Plane is in feet. So if this number looked off, I'd want to confirm that I didn't accidentally mistype divide by 13 instead of divide by 12, and I know it's a calculation. If something looks wrong with it, I can double check it. Now, a note here, this is inches, and this is the anterior limit of the envelope for weight and balance. Inches from where? It is inches from the tip of the nose. So if we go back here, it's inches back towards the tail from the tip of the nose. And so it's 12 feet, 8 inches back from the tip of the nose, which is where the front limit is on the weight and balance, and I'll explain back when we get to that part of the builds. So I put any data I can find. I wish I could have found more on the passengers. I don't have that. Fuel tanks, again, do calculations. We'll talk about a lot of these. And I've included some data. For example, this data on systems down here will not affect the plane performance at all, but if we want gauges to display numbers that are consistent with what they would display in the real world, such as oil temperature numbers, which are right here, then those are the actual numbers we should see. And these should be close, but I'm not 100% sure they're accurate because as I wrote myself a note, some of these numbers down here, most of them come from a PTE 331-6, and the engine we're using is a TPE 331-10. So they might be a little different, but at least it gives us a starting point. So the next thing we'll do is we'll go back and we'll open Plane Maker, and I'll probably adjust this to make it a little more visible. especially I doubt you're going to be able to see the wire here. Let's see if I've done a reload textures. Yeah, I've already set it up for that. So now you can see it more easily. If you hit the space bar, what you get is the wire, and you hit the space bar again and you get a solid half tube, and this is your starting point. When you open PlaneMaker, the first thing you want to do is you want to save this starting point. So we'll go to our test in our MU2 and we'll create a file name. So you want to save it under a new name. So MU2-40, and we'll call this plain test, and we'll get an error message. So if we go back to our file, to our aircraft test, so now we see our plane, and it has an extension of ACF. So if you want to modify any of the other planes, let's say if I go back here and I wanted to modify the Baron, then what I do is in PlaneMaker select this Baron ACF file, and then I could modify the parameters of the Baron. Again, you'd want to copy the entire folder into a new location before you do that, or you might end up messing up the plane that came with it. You certainly are going to end up changing it. So there we go. So after I save it as, I can go here to the author, I can give it a name, so we can call it a solitaire, because that's what the -40 is, it's a solitaire, call sign for ATC. We can make something up. We can put the IO code, which is MU2, and the only thing we really have to do, or we don't even have to do that at this stage. We probably should put the manufacturer in, and I'll make this a little larger, and select the type. It's a general aviation airplane. So that's this menu, the author menu. And the next thing we could do is we can go ahead and put in some of these things from our list. So we've got the VMO, which is it's down here somewhere. Here it is. It's the Mach number, so we can do 0.57. So again, this will not affect the performance of the plane, but it will affect what shows up on the airspeed indicator. And the VNE is 50. And anything you have a question about, if you mouse over it, X-Plane will usually give you some information about what it is you're entering. So we'll enter, make it the same, so we don't have a yellow line. This is our flap speed for 75 degrees. Or for 5 degrees rather, and so we'll make this 1.75, so that's our clean, our first notch, and then we'll make the full flaps 55, and again this will just determine what shows up on our airspeed indicator. I don't have a VY, so we'll use the blue line, which should be 150, and VX I think is 135. Again, this is a number I'm just remembering, and this number is off, both of those numbers come from the dash 60, so I'm just remembering. And here's our VS, which we're going to use 93. And then our 73. So that's this number right here, and we can also come down I'm going to pause for 1 second. Well, I guess I'll just try to finish this up. This is our G limits. Now, it doesn't tell you which is up and which is down. I'm just assuming that the first one is up and the second one is down, which is the way you would normally do it. But I don't know that for sure. So those are two numbers. So there's the up, 321, and the down, which is 1.28. So these we will deal with later. We can put the runway in. I think the runway limit is 2,750. An MU-2 can land on unimproved as well as improved. If we only want to show those airports, we can click on that, and so with that we will save it. And our next video, what we'll do is we will come back and make this full screen. We'll come back and go here, excuse me, and we will start to make a plane body out of this too. And I think I can do that in about 30 minutes. I will try to limit these videos to 30 minutes or less, and I'll try to deal with only one topic in each video. So I'll see you for the next video where we turn this into an airplane body.